Hello, you are joining me on a beautiful evening in the South Wales valleys. We are out again during a mini heat wave, so it's been sort of 28, 29 degrees today, and they give it pretty mild overnight as well. A little bit of cloud in the sky now, so trapping all that heat. So I'm back out, local camp, trying a different bivvy tonight. Last camp we had was in the Bach half tent bivvy, which I think for me is just the ideal bivvy. But tonight we're in the Bach heads up bivvy pro. So similar kind of design, but only one hoop, a couple hundred grams lighter. I've got the regular size on me and I've got the large in the half tent. So if you went for the large heads up pro, it's only about 100 grams lighter than the standard half tent. But the heads up pro has got a completely different material, electro spun, supposed to be very, very breathable. But the last time I used it, I found it a little bit cramped. So I'm going to go out tonight just to remind myself of what it's like to use and whether I would just much rather be in the much bigger half tent. As ever, the views from up here are absolutely fantastic. Setting sun in the clouds. Central Brecon beacons there above the trees, so just see Pen y Fan and make out Cribben on the right hand side. And then right across the valleys and the ridgeways in this beautiful part of South Wales. Now I've camped here a lot recently with my daughter and by myself, so tonight we're going to try and walk to a slightly different location where the pictures are a lot more limited, but when you've got a small bivvy, you may as well make the most of that and pitch in a slightly smaller area, somewhere a bit different. So yeah, we'll take advantage of the very small footprint of this bivvy and hope it'll fit in the spot I've got in mind. Well, a slight change of plan. Found a spot that's much closer to the car, so I'm going to pitch here because I've got work tomorrow. So got my Sierra Designs flexi capacitor at 40 to 60 litre tonight, and it is cinched right down to its 40 litre mode and is plenty enough for one person, just a lightweight overnight camp. I've used it mainly as a two-person sort of pack recently with my daughter as well, some very noisy sheep around. So yeah, thought I'd just quickly show you that bag does work as a 40 litre bag really well, really comfy to carry. Now in terms of the bivvy itself, I've only ever used this once before, and the pack size is still impressive. It's definitely a smaller pack size than the half tent, but the half tent material is sort of thinner, lighter, so the pro version of the heads up bivvy and the half tent are significantly heavier than the non-pro versions, and for some reason they're also rated as 4 season, even though design wise they're absolutely the same design as the regular versions, which say they are 3 season. So you can definitely get this slightly smaller if you took the poles out and pack this down. It doesn't feel quite as packable as the half tent. The half tent feels like there's a lot more to give in the material. It looks like the half tent could crush on a lot more because, say, this material is more specialist and slightly heavier. Now the half tent comes in the same colours, comes in green and this kind of sandy yellow, which is not very stealthy, which is why I've picked a spot that's got quite a lot of tall grass around it, because very low bivvy, once it's pitched you won't be able to see it from anywhere but walking right up to it, because it's got this sort of 360 degree cover. So this is not the stealthiest colour, but like I said on the half tent video, the pro versions are very expensive. So I got this on sale for about £279, and it was more expensive in the green. I think it was like £320 in the green, so I went for the cheaper sandy colour, which is perfect for sand dunes but not quite as stealthy on the green hills of South Wales. So the main difference between this and the half tent is this is a single pole design, with the pole being at the head end to give you a bit more headroom. But when I slept in it last time, I didn't find it very roomy at the head end because I seem to be sort of too far into it. So I'm going to try it again tonight to see if my first impressions were correct, or whether this actually is a more livable bivvy, or whether this kind of bivvy just doesn't suit me and I much prefer the half tent with the extra space and the interior space and stuff. So I don't think I'm going to be able to get my pack into this bivvy, which is something I really like to be able to do. So we'll just have to wait and see. One thing I do notice about this one here is that there's gaps between each pole that fits together. Didn't seem to be that on the half tent. This one here seems to have really distinctive gaps between the poles, and maybe it's just the way that the poles are pre-bent, but doesn't feel quite as slick as finished as the half tent, even though I imagine the poles are probably very, very similar design, if not the same. Pegs seem to be the same as they are on the half tent, and the bottom of the bivvy, really, really simple. No support at the bottom end, so just a simple peg out point on each corner. The pole idea is the same as on the half tent. Just slide the pole through the sleeve and it terminates at the other end and then clips into the same substantial pole holder as the other one with the same little adjustment and tightener there. The end is nice and simple. Two little pegging out points and then the single vent with one little adjustable guy line off there as well. You can peg out the two pole points as well, but the pegs aren't included for that, so I've had to put in additional pegs to secure those down. But I guess they don't really need it, but it's only a couple of extra pegs, so I may as well put them in. Well, it is really interesting bringing this bivvy out after using the half tent, because even though this is the regular and the half tent is the large, there's only 200 grams different in weight, but yet the size and the interior space is vastly different. This is a lot smaller, especially the head space. There's really not much additional headroom from the pole sort of sinking down. There's not really much space to store stuff or really sort of have enough space in that top end, so it is kind of just as small as I remember when I slept in it. So yeah, you can see it's a proper bivvy. I mean, unsupported. The material does feel really nice. Just feel different to any material I've used on tents before, and last I didn't really get any condensation. It's got a sort of almost like a sort of linen feel to the inside of it. So I mean, the zip is really good in terms of getting in and out of the bivvy. It's really spacious, and obviously you can put just the mesh layer right above and you've got a huge amount of mesh and a real kind of view the stars setup, which is slightly different on the half tent. The half tent kind of does more like that, so this is a more kind of traditional bivvy, and for this kind of evening where it's really warm, I won't need to put the outer on at all, and I'll just be able to cinch this away. Although there's only one tie-up point on this as well, in the same way that there is on the half tent. But it is night and day different in terms of space. There really is so much more space with the half tent, despite the weight being only a very minimal increase. Now, I have got quite a large sleep mat tonight, which is going to fill most of it. But I find that's quite good with a bivvy or a tent. If the sleeping mat fills the space, there's no movement, no room for it to slide around, you tend to get a better sleep. If I'm sleeping in a bigger 2-man or even 3-man tent, which I have recently with my daughter, so much more room for the sleep mat to move around. It's a bit more annoying for me to sleep like that. Now, I've got my Unigear Campy P3 sleep mat, which is the regular wide version, is pretty massive, so much bigger than my Nemo, which I'd normally use in this kind of camp, but I want a little bit of luxury tonight, so I've gone for this, and it should fill the bivvy up pretty nicely. As you can see, fills up the bivvy nicely. If you tuck it right to the very bottom, you've got a little bit of headroom, but what I found when I used this last time is that actually having it like that, your face is very, very close to the outer layer, so I think it's best put at that end. You can have the most kind of headroom, But you can see there's almost zero space for any kind of gear inside with you, so it's very much going to be just a place to sleep. Night and day different from the half tent. So I think, really, knowing myself, the half tent is just going to be something I'm going to want to use over this every single time. But we'll give it a try, because at least with this one here, you do have that kind of stargazing top, so that's one thing in its favour. So one of the things I struggle with in terms of bivvies is their kind of practicality, because on the evening like tonight, beautiful evening, lovely and dry, yeah, bivvy makes absolute sense, because you can happily potter about getting your sleep mat set up, taking your sleeping bag out, kind of getting the whole thing set up, and then sort of hopping in to go to sleep. But if you're using it for a sort of through hike and the weather's unpredictable, what if it starts raining and you get to somewhere you want to pitch up? You can only set the tent up or the bivvy up from outside. You're going to have to inflate your sleep mat, do your sleeping bag, all that kind of stuff, kind of with the bivvy open. So everything's going to be soaking wet, you're going to be soaking wet. There's no real way of you kind of getting changed to get into the bivvy and stay remotely dry. There's no space to get inside the bivvy and kind of get your stuff set up, because it's just big enough for the sleep mat itself. So I reckon with the half tent, there was enough space in there for me to pitch it, get inside with my bag, and it wouldn't be pleasant, it wouldn't be easy, but I reckon lying down you could get your stuff out of your bag, do your sleep mat, and kind of get set up inside the half tent. So a completely different proposition to this. And you might say, well, these things are designed to be used with tarps as well. I get that. But even so, adds another layer of complexity, adds something else to carry. You're going to have to either use trekking poles or carry dedicated poles. It kind of defeats the purpose. And when this is already like 800 grams or 795, whatever it is, you're not far off an ultralight tent anyway. And some of the tents, like the Cedar Summit kind of ones and stuff, can be really quite tall and all the rest of it. So this is rated as a 4-season thing, but all your gear is going to be outside. So then you need to have all your stuff in dry bags or whatever, and your dry bag for your boots or your trainers, whatever what it is you're wearing. So I don't know. I mean, I thought this was the one when I purchased it, in terms of it's supposed to be extremely breathable, nice vent at the top end, really good generous side entrance, because the clamshell designs I just think are a total waste of time. Like, trying to get in and out of them is an absolute nightmare. At least with this one here, you can kind of get out fairly easily. If the weather was really bad, like, I get the idea if you just jump in the bivvy and just ride it out, but I'm in my 40s, I can't get for a night without going for a wee. So if you're in a clamshell design, when you've got to kind of crawl out through the front, then you've got to crawl back in. At least this way you can kind of get out a bit easier. And I guess if you were at a pinch, you could just unzip very carefully and just, as a man, just wee out of the side if it was really raining heavy, you didn't want to get out. So this at least has that option covered. So I don't know. I'm going to see how I get on with it tonight. But maybe it is just fair weather camping, or you just bite the bullet and pack a tarp and try and do a setup like that. So I think with my lightweight tarps, I could do a setup that would make it kind of more livable and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I loved the half tent. The half tent was so surprising just how big and spacious it was for the pack size and the weight in that I guess this now looks even smaller than it did the first time when I used it. But anyway, it's almost getting dark now, so I'll get the sleeping bag set up and show you then a bit more the final setup for sleeping tonight. So this is the final setup now. Because it's a very, very mild night, I've gone for the Cedar Summit GW1 Glow quilt. I've not bothered tucking it underneath or doing any of the straps up, because it could be really warm, so I want to give myself as much flexibility so I can kick it off my feet if I want to, but I can also wrap up fairly well in it. So sleep mat right up to the top there, and I've just got a warm layer and a little thin layer at the top just to sort of pad out where the cushion's going to go. I've got my bag of essentials, so in there is like my battery bank, first aid kit, toiletry kit, toothbrush, all that kind of stuff. So I've got that in the tent with me, along with just my car keys, cut other bits and pieces. You can see, even with a kind of generous sleep mat, which does have a kind of slightly raised bit at the head, there's still plenty of height for the vent there, so the vent's going to be right where my head is to again minimize any chance of condensation. And we are going to sleep just with the mesh layer on, so hopefully we're going to enjoy some stars. The moon is already out. So as a kind of sleep system, looks perfectly fine. I mean, it's not the most spacious thing in the world. You are going to be pretty close to this, but this is why I think you need the pillow right at the very top here, because there's just no space to go any further down. And obviously you do want to keep your feet away from the bottom as much as possible, because it's going to hit the outer material and the chances are you're going to get a damp sort of sleep system at the bottom there. Obviously no room inside the tent for my sleeping bag, and the other issue I've got is I'm shooting on my full frame camera at the moment, hence why even though it's pretty dark the video quality should be really good. But I'm going to find a way of also cramming that inside the tent with me somehow in the camera bag, because I don't really want to leave that outside. It's too valuable and too delicate to have left out. So that is going to be a bit of an issue, because there's really not much space left in here at all. So I'm going to kind of cram it in the corner maybe, or just find, I don't know, just chuck it somewhere. But yeah, struggling for space for any kind of gear, because this head end just isn't very generous at all. I appreciate this is the regular version, so maybe if you were going to go for this kind of Bivy, the Heads Up Pro, or the Heads Up Standard, which is much cheaper in the same material as the half tent that I'm using, because the half tent is not the Pro version, then maybe the large version would have more space at this top end, so I'll be able to get my camera gear in a lot more comfortably and stuff, and slightly more width. So maybe I'm being slightly unfair to the Heads Up Pro because it's a regular version, a regular size, and my half tent is large, and maybe that's kind of disadvantaging this one too much. But like I said, if you go for the Heads Up Pro Bivy Large, then you're only really 100 grams lighter than the half tent, which I get. The Pro version is heavier again, but the standard version of the half tent only 100 grams heavier, but the large version absolutely massive in comparison to this. So yeah, I'm definitely in two minds about this kind of setup. I think if I look at what would I rather be in tonight, I'd probably rather be in the half tent. So I think really how we see you in the morning, but chances are I'm just going to want to sell this and just keep the half tent. But we'll find out. Sun is setting. It's time for me to chill out and stop nattering at the video. But yeah, hopefully I'll have a good night's sleep, whatever happens. And this one here, we're going to have those star views, so maybe that's something in its favour. Wow, it's incredibly still now, hardly a breath of wind, but the air is reasonably cool, so should have a good night. Pretty much cooler than being at home, because the heat that hangs around the house is just a lot after a day like today. So it's pretty much on the way to getting dark now. It's gone, I think it's gone 10 o'clock. So yeah, it's going to get into the bivvy, try and have a night's sleep, and we'll catch up in the morning with what I make of it, and whether it's going to be something I keep, or whether I'm going to have to face the fact of selling it and probably making a bit of a loss, because I just don't think they hold their value. I don't think they're that sought after, and I think really, I mean, they might be nicely made and some exotic materials, but I just think they're overpriced for what they are, to be honest. Like, they're really expensive to buy new. So yeah, anyway, gonna hopefully have a good night's sleep, and I'll catch up with you in the morning.
It's just gone 6 a.m. Very, very still night. A lot of moisture in the air. Quite a lot of dew on the grass. Bag is pretty wet from dew, but the inside of the bivvy is absolutely fine. My feet on the quilt were absolutely fine and dry. But I did have the mesh vent open all night, so you wouldn't expect to get a massive amount of buildup of condensation, but the vent right by your head does help with that as well. The reason I'm up so early is the farmer is back, who was mowing the field yesterday. He's back mowing a bit over there, so thankfully he's not come too close to where I am, but I've already packed most of it away and going to head off anyway. So it is really easy to pack away and lightweight and stuff. So I think for an overnight camp in good weather, it is a really good little bivvy. I think I'd wish I'd bought the large version. I'm only 5'11", but I still find this just a little bit on the tight side. So the large would be a good option, but I'm not going to change it now because they're just too expensive. So yeah, maybe I'll do a comparison video directly between the half tent and this bivvy sometime. Picture them both side by side, show you the difference in terms of footprint and interior space and pack size and stuff. So I'll do a video on that very soon. So yeah, because of the farmer buzzing around in his tractor, I'm going to pack up the rest of the gear and head back to the car and go home and get showered and go to work. But yeah, I slept really well in it, to be fair. It was a perfect bivvy, perfect shelter for a night like last night when it was really warm. It's really cool and able to see around and stuff. So yeah, it is a good bivvy. I just don't think it's practical for anything but fair weather camping, really. Anyway, hope it's been useful to this video. Hope you've enjoyed it and enjoyed the time lapses and stuff. And yeah, hopefully I'll catch you in the next one.